Hey YouTube, Ronin Kaze. At least I'm not protecting my big speaker, Bluetooth speaker. Hey everybody, it's Ashes of Creation. It's a game early access, MMORPG. I have let me turn this down. Holy mackerel, Ronin. Jeez, oh Pete's with my figuring it out. It started development almost 10 years ago. And you can read more about what's happened to it, what's taken so long. This is a time if you can like, subscribe, share, unsubscribe, resubscribe. I'd appreciate if you subscribe, if you shared it with your friends, if you asked them to subscribe to this channel. I would appreciate it. It does help. I'm trying to get to 500 and more so I can monetize the channel. So I was going to include the very first bit of the gameplay. I had no idea how to play, so I ran out immediately and died. So this is about a third of the way in. I'm still grinding up levels. I haven't expanded or zoomed in on the gameplay at all because I want you to kind of get a feel for the whole game, kind of things that comes up. It has a menu bar that automatically populates. There's some good ideas in the game. I don't know in 2025 if they're all that fresh. I start out as a minstrel. That's what this character is, or a bard. You'll remember in Lords of the Ring, there's a minstrel. So this one has a drum. So it's kind of similar, and it has some of the similar gameplay. Recently, when I've been on Lords of the Ring, I've been telling you I switched to this character class called the Warden class. It was a little more tanky. And what I'm running into in this is I'm not that tanky. I guess I can wear medium. I didn't really pay attention to all that, but I got to a point where I'm level 6 and fighting level 6s, and I'm not really sure how to play the class. As I go further on, I don't have later gameplay because I started messing around and started tweaking with skills. I then went back and created a cleric. And a cleric was traditional, very much in the vein of the WoW paladin. Strong, quick, flash heal, and like a hammer of might kind of mechanic. But not really good AoE. The AoE was provided by like a club. So one of the things, they had a club and it hit everyone in front of them. It's a tab-based targeting game, but when you're swinging at one person, the other people get automatic damage. I mean, a game like ESO, you have to pick bigger weapons, two-handed weapons, and then you got a spec for that. So it's nice that some of those things are just inherently in there. Wasn't really a penalty when I died. I appreciated that. But there was a point where I just having a hard time getting past like level 4 mobs that might have been a little bit tougher. Might have been like sergeants with that minstrel. You may see that here. And I didn't really understand. You have two weapons. You have a magic weapon or a ranged weapon, and you have a melee weapon, and then you can hit a button that does both. You get more damage and certain whoop-de-doo. So there's some interesting characteristics. I don't know how to play it. I just like going in there and smoking stuff. So in that thing, it scratches the itch. The thing that makes me nervous is it was pretty steep price during Christmas time for this game. $42.99 on Steam in the US for early access. I got a lot of what's called glint, and I just want to sell it somewhere and get some money, and I can't. Maybe the town. And if you played Throne and Liberty, their big complaint about Throne and Liberty is that some guilds would take over areas, and then they would, you know, impose their will, and then. And that Amazon game, New World, was kind of like that, where they could change the tax system. So that's kind of good. It kind of makes you want to owe yourself out to whatever guild is running it so you can get some of those benefits. But it also, some of the solo players, the biggest thing is this. If you really want a solo experience, stick with an RPG game like Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Skyrim. If you want an MMO, you're going to play for Skyrim, you're going to play Elder Scrolls Online, or you're going to play Fallout 76 if you like the Fallout series. If you were into real-time strategy games, then you played World of Warcraft back in the day. World of Warcraft MMORPG is that kind of world, but you're controlling one of those characters. So I kind of stay out of the chat in these new things because, you know, people think if they have the loudest voice, they're going to influence everything. What does every game maker want? They want a game like Fortnite that people PvP, they'll spend money on skins, they'll spend money, and everyone likes the gameplay. So they're never going to get people to say don't have PvP. What I liked is this had a thing where you could keep yourself out of PvP. But there's a lot of games that kind of have this mechanic, and you know, they put a limit on how much access you have to even the Division. My sweet and lovely Division 2 has that. Now, I thought the name of this game was Age of Creation, so I've been checking Steam for it. And I look at Google News, and it popped up in my feed that people were playing it already. It has a third-party account, and then you got to link your account with Steam. There's a lot of these games that do that. They're trying to reach the broadest amount of people, and Steam ends up being like maybe a subset of that. Now, some mechanics that I wish I would have known. I pretty much stayed with the same weapon when I was going through there on this minstrel, but I ended up, right, I played the cleric, and then I played a summoner, a pet class, and that was okay. And then finally I tried a fighter. Like, I wanted the class to kind of heal, and usually with barbarians or fighter classes, they have a mechanic where they'll end up getting a trickle of health back. And that's really all you need. You just don't want to die. So I went with fighter. It was a nice time to kill pretty quick. And as the mechanic went, I ended up going pretty far with that. So I think I'm level 5 or level 6 with that. Level 5, I think. I played this first run through was an hour and 52 minutes. And I was like, oh, maybe I should stop recording. So it really scratched an itch I liked. You get skill points for weapons, but if you change a weapon, it gets a new, right? You lose those kind of skill points. So when you're getting weapon points, you're really putting those into the weapon you used, not just in a pool that you can spend on any weapon. So you can't like use like an axe and then don't spend any of that. Maybe you can, but and then put it on a great sword or whatever. But I had the opposite happen. I was leveling up, so that was kind of weird. But you get like the first 2 or 3 points pretty quick, so it's not the end of the game, end of the world. Character customization, there's 8 or 9 races. There's like your basic dwarf, your basic hobbit, 3 types of angry human, elf, nature people from like Guild Wars 2 that have trees growing out of their head, and then like trolls and ogres. This is kind of, I think, a troll-like character. So I was pretty happy with that. And it's another one of these games, YouTube. Game being 10 years old, it's going to runs great on Linux. I think you can see I can't read the stats from here. I'd have to put on my glasses. Then you'd know that I was a really old codger that just bumped into the camera. Holy mackerel. Not plugged in. I haven't had to plug in since I got my speakers working. Update on Linux gaming works fine. Steam works fine. One thing that I'm trying to do, in Lords of the Ring Online, they have a horrible world map. You can put in, it has add-ons. Putting add-ons on a system that's wine being run through wine, and then Steam would let, right? It's hard to find where to put those files. So that's kind of my next thing to do, is kind of find that. I went pretty far. As you know or don't know, Steam has an ID for all these games. And the ID for Lords of the Ring Online is whatever. I can't find it, but it's not because maybe I'm not looking in the right place. So that's one of my projects. Also, I'm going to bash the Linux desktop people. I know everyone has to do content. I understand that. And I understand if you work for one of those, like XDA or Make Use Of, or any of those places that are relatively okay, and they have like list of 5. These are the 5 programs I always load on whatever. What's aggravated about those sites, so one place say these are 3 programs you should try out on Linux. One is a Constellation program. So what I don't understand is, yeah, your editor said you had to have content, whoever wrote that article, and I apologize. And I realize that there's not a lot of new programs to run. That's when you should delve into, okay, on Genome or GNOME, I'm going to show you how to put widgets on. And here's the 5 widgets I use. So on my desktop, I have a clock, an analog clock, because I don't want to forget how to tell time. I have a calendar and I have the weather because I'm old, right? So I need to know what time it is and what the weather's going to be like because I'm old and I have to have a calendar. So what day is it? And then I also have like a CPU monitor that I created from SysMonitor. And so KDE has that built in. And I'll see, other articles, what are the 10 reasons to have Linux? And one of them is you can have widgets. Well, if you don't know that you can't put on Rain Meter and have widgets in Windows, you're not that smart. I was going to say a bad word. You're not that smart. So why are we listening to you for your articles? And don't just the excuses for Linux. Here's your number one thing. Microsoft no longer supports Windows 10. And let's say you want to be really good for Christmas. Why don't you send $25 to Catchios and $25 to KDE and say, thank you, I use your stuff. And then you've spent $50. And so when I was looking for my problem with how to mount these drives, nowhere. Bits and pieces, bits and pieces, bits and pieces. But I really had to go in and do quite a bit of digging out to find out how to do that. And I kind of have a better understanding now. And I don't know if I recorded it already, YouTube, or I'm old and senile maybe. We're getting near the end, so maybe I'm just getting old and senile. But I understand enough how to equate it from Windows to Linux. And I could do it in Dolphin because I got it all set up where you could change the permissions in Dolphin instead of using the terminal. I agree with everyone that uses Linux. There's a lot of advantages of the terminals. But I don't need one more article on it. I do everything in a terminal now. I even run my calendar in the terminal. I loaded one of those. And it was okay, and it's kind of neat. But, I mean, I should get out my old. I had a Toshiba. I used to love Toshibas. And I have a little Libretto Toshiba. I should probably take that out. I love that. That was a great machine. And I had a And I had another, like an NEC, which was like TRS-80, little portable computer that had a 40 by 20 line or whatever of text. I don't want to live in text world, right? I'd like graphics. Thank you, pictures. I mean, controversial take coming up here. No matter how old we are, and no matter if there was ancient civilizations or not, at a certain point, we wrote pictures in France in that cave, like, hey, we were hunting, before we had writing it down in cuneiform in Sumeria. But the Anunnaki. All right, YouTube, this is Ronin Kaze. Bye.